Welcome to What If You Never Existed, a place where reality meets the impossible. I'm your host, and today we're diving into a story that will make you question the nature of time, memory, and existence itself. Prepare for a journey to a hotel where guests don't just disappear from reality, but from history itself.
My name is David Clark, and what I'm about to tell you happened to me 3 months ago in northern Vermont. I work as an insurance investigator, specializing in questionable claims. My job is to find the truth where others see only numbers in reports. The case began with the Evergreen Hotel, an abandoned modernist building standing on the edge of Green Mountain National Park. The owners filed an insurance claim asserting that their business went bankrupt due to unexplained disappearances of guests. Over the past 5 years, according to their statement, 17 people had vanished, but police couldn't find any evidence of crimes. When I first saw photos of the hotel, I was overcome by a strange sense of déjà vu. The 8-story concrete and glass building with sharp geometric forms looked like a monument to 1960s architectural brutalism, but something in its architecture seemed wrong. Windows were asymmetrically placed, corridors curved at unnatural angles, and the main staircase, according to the plans, led nowhere. I arrived there on a rainy October evening. The owner, Thomas Merritt, an elderly man with a nervous tic and constantly trembling hands, met me at the entrance. His wife Elizabeth stood silently in the shadows, and I noticed she avoided looking at the upper floors of the building. "Mr. Clark," Thomas began, leading me through the lobby, "I must warn you, this hotel, it affects people, changes them. I bought it 10 years ago. Thought it would be a profitable business. Historic building, beautiful views, proximity to tourist routes. But strange things began in the very first month. The hotel lobby struck me with its cold minimalism, polished marble floors, dark concrete walls, geometric black metal fixtures, abstract carpets with psychedelic patterns. But when I looked more closely, I noticed that the patterns on the carpets moved. Barely perceptibly, as if alive, they slowly flowed from one form to another. "Room 237 is available," Thomas said, handing me an antique brass key. "It's the only room on the second floor where guests stayed longer than one night." Climbing the stairs, I felt the air temperature gradually drop. The second floor was noticeably colder than downstairs, though the heating worked properly. The corridor stretched in both directions, lit by dim gas lamps that, as Thomas explained, were part of the historical ambiance. Room 237 turned out to be spacious but gloomy, heavy burgundy curtains, antique dark wood furniture, a canopy bed that cast ominous shadows on the walls, but strangest was the mirrored wall opposite the bed. The mirror was antique, in a massive gilded frame, and something about it seemed wrong. My reflection looked delayed. When I raised my hand, the reflection repeated the movement with a split-second delay. I spent the first night studying documents. The hotel's history was dark from the very beginning. Built in 1967 by media mogul Joshua Blackwood, it was intended for wealthy bohemians, artists, writers, directors who came seeking inspiration among Vermont's autumn landscapes. But within a year of opening, problems began. First to disappear was Blackwood himself. He entered his office on the 3rd floor and was never seen again. Servants found the room empty but locked from inside. Windows were closed, the chimney too narrow for a person. Joshua Blackwood simply vanished into thin air. Over the following decades, the hotel changed many owners. In the 70s, it became a cult destination for hippies and artists. In the 80s, an elite spa resort. In the 90s, a corporate conference center. But history repeated itself. Guests disappeared without a trace. They didn't flee, didn't leave secretly, they simply vanished. Their belongings remained in rooms, cars in the parking lot, but the people themselves were as if they had never existed. The most terrifying thing was that after some time, even records of the missing disappeared. Their names were erased from registration books, photographs faded, and relatives and friends began to forget their existence, as if the hotel not only consumed people but erased them from reality. Around 2 a.m, I woke to a strange sound. Footsteps in the corridor, slow, measured, as if someone was pacing back and forth right outside my door. I approached the peephole and looked out. The corridor was empty, but the gas lamps burned dimmer than usual, casting bizarre shadows on the walls. The footsteps continued for about 20 minutes, then stopped. I tried to sleep, but every time I closed my eyes, it seemed someone was watching me. The gaze was almost physically tangible, heavy, penetrating, filled with ancient malice. In the morning at breakfast, Elizabeth spoke to me for the first time. Thomas had gone to town for groceries, and we were alone in the dining room. "You heard them last night, didn't you?" she asked quietly, not lifting her eyes from her coffee cup. "The footsteps in the corridor. They walk there every night. These are the souls of those who couldn't leave." I tried to rationally explain what I'd heard. Old building, heating pipes, settling floorboards. But Elizabeth shook her head. "Mr. Clark, I've lived here 10 years. I know every sound of this cursed place. What you heard, that's not creaking boards. That's an echo of the past trapped in the hotel's walls. And you know what's most frightening? Every year there are more of these sounds." She looked up at me and I saw genuine terror in her eyes. "The hotel is hungry, Mr. Clark. It feeds on people, their memories, their existence, and it's already begun feeding on me. Sometimes I wake up and don't remember my name. Sometimes I look in the mirror and don't recognize my face. Soon I'll disappear too, and no one will remember I ever existed." During the day, I explored the hotel more thoroughly. The first floor seemed normal. Restaurant, lounge, library with dust-covered books. But the higher I climbed, the more distorted reality became. The second floor, where my room was located, had a strange layout. The corridor formed an irregular polygon, and some doors led to rooms that shouldn't exist according to building plans. At the end of the corridor was a staircase to the 3rd floor, but when I tried to climb it, I found it led nowhere, simply ended at a blank wall. The 3rd floor was the most sinister. There was the office of vanished Joshua Blackwood, and the door was locked with the same type of lock as other rooms. Thomas gave me the key reluctantly, warning that no one stayed in that office longer than a few minutes. Blackwood's office was furnished with the luxury of a late 20th century media mogul. Massive oak desk, leather chairs, walls hung with paintings of trains and railway stations. But in the center of the room stood something that made my blood run cold. An exact copy of the mirror hanging in my room. This mirror was larger, in an even more luxurious frame, and the reflection in it was wrong. I saw myself, but not only myself. Behind my back, in the depths of the mirror surface, shadows moved. They took human shapes, reached toward me, as if trying to break free from their glass prison. Suddenly a face appeared in the mirror, an elderly man with a gray beard and burning eyes. He looked directly at me and moved his lips as if speaking. I couldn't hear words, but somehow understood the meaning. Join us. It's so lonely here. I recoiled from the mirror and ran out of the office, slamming the door. My heart beat so fast I feared losing consciousness. The rational part of my mind tried to find a logical explanation. Stress hallucinations, play of light and shadow, self-suggestion. But deep inside I knew I had seen something real and terrifying. The second night was even worse than the first. Footsteps in the corridor became louder and more frequent. Other sounds joined them, creaking floorboards, rustling clothes, muffled voices. Sometimes it seemed someone was trying to open my room door, but when I checked the lock, it was securely fastened. Around 3 in the morning, I heard a woman crying. Quiet, hopeless, filled with such sorrow that my heart ached. The crying came from somewhere above, from the 3rd floor, but when I pressed my ear to the ceiling, the sound stopped. The mirror in my room began to change. The reflection became even more delayed, and sometimes it seemed to move independently of me. When I went to bed, the reflection continued to stand and watch me from the mirror's depths. On the 3rd day, I decided to study the documents more carefully. In the hotel's basement, in an old archive, I found registration books from the past 50 years. What I saw made my blood freeze. Names of missing guests gradually disappeared from the pages. First ink faded, then letters became unclear, and finally names completely erased themselves, leaving only empty lines. But most chilling was that the process continued before my eyes. I watched as the name Robert Harrison, written a week ago, slowly dissolved into nothingness. I realized the hotel didn't simply kill people, it erased them from existence, wiped all traces of their presence in the world. This was worse than death. This was complete destruction of personality, turning a person into nothing. In the archive, I also found Joshua Blackwood's diary. The last entries were made the day before his disappearance. The mirrors in the hotel behave strangely. In them are visible not reflections but windows to other worlds. I'm beginning to understand that I built the hotel on a cursed place. Local Indians warned me, said the boundary between worlds was thin here. I didn't listen to them. Now it's too late. Every night the shadows in the mirrors become more real. They call to me, promise peace from torment, from memories of what I've done. Maybe they're right. Maybe it's better to disappear than live with this burden on my soul. The 3rd night became the turning point. I woke from a sense of alien presence in the room. Opening my eyes, I saw the mirror glowing with a weak, unnatural light. In its depths moved silhouettes, dozens, maybe hundreds of human figures. They reached toward me, and their faces were distorted with despair. Suddenly, Joshua Blackwood stepped out of the mirror. He looked exactly as in the portrait in the office, but his eyes burned with phosphorescent fire. "David," he said in a voice like wind whisper, "you understand what's happening. The hotel is a trap, created by my greed and pride. I built it on a sacred place where Indians buried their shamans, disturbed ancient forces, opened a door between worlds. Now this place thirsts for souls, feeds on human memories. Everyone who stays here too long becomes part of the hotel, dissolves into its cursed essence. We're all here, David, all who ever disappeared within these walls, and soon you'll join us." I tried to get up from the bed but found I couldn't move. My body felt like lead, and my limbs stopped obeying. Blackwood approached, and with each step the mirror expanded, consuming more and more of the room's space. "Don't resist," he whispered. "It doesn't hurt here. Here is only peace and oblivion. You'll cease to exist, but you'll also stop suffering. Isn't that what every tormented soul desires? At that moment, I remembered words from Blackwood's diary about the Indian burial ground. Native Americans believed mirrors could capture souls, but they had ways of protection. I concentrated on this thought, tried to remember everything I knew about shamanic practices. With enormous effort of will, I forced myself to close my eyes and stop looking in the mirror. The force holding me weakened. I rolled off the bed, fell to the floor and crawled toward the window without opening my eyes. Behind me came the sound of breaking glass. The mirror cracked, unable to withstand the severed connection. I jerked open the window and jumped onto the second-floor ledge. The height was small. I escaped with only bruises. When I looked back at the hotel, I saw the third-floor windows glowing with the same phosphorescent light that came from the mirror. In each window stood silhouettes, all those absorbed by the hotel over more than half a century of its existence. I reached my car and drove away without looking back. Only the next day, in the safety of my office, did I try to contact Thomas and Elizabeth Merritt, but no one answered the calls. A week later, I returned to that area with a group of colleagues. We found no hotel. Where the evergreen stood, there was only an empty clearing overgrown with grass. Local residents claimed they'd never heard of such a hotel, and when I showed them photos from the insurance file, they looked at me like I was insane. Thomas and Elizabeth Merritt didn't exist. There were no records of their birth, marriage, or hotel purchase. The insurance company had no cases related to the Evergreen Hotel, as if it had all been just a nightmare. But I know it was real. I have one remaining artifact, the brass key from room 237, which I clutched during my escape. It's material, heavy, darkened with age, and every night, when I look in the bathroom mirror, it seems my reflection lags by a split second. The hotel disappeared, but its curse continues to live. Somewhere between worlds exists a place where all go who stare too long into mirrors, who can't let go of the past, who are ready to trade existence for peace. And sometimes, on especially dark nights, I feel that place calling me back. I no longer work as an insurance investigator, can't risk encountering another unexplained case. But the story of the Evergreen Hotel taught me one thing. There are things worse than death. One can disappear so completely that even memories of your existence dissolve into nothingness. And most terrifying for some tormented souls, this seems a desirable salvation.
David Clarke's story makes us think about the nature of existence and memory. What happens to us when the last traces of our presence in this world are erased? Can we disappear so completely that even the universe itself forgets our existence? The Evergreen Hotel is a metaphor for our deepest fears. Fear of being forgotten, losing our identity, dissolving into the infinity of time, and perhaps somewhere in parallel dimensions, places truly exist, where those go who are ready to trade life's torments for complete oblivion. Remember, every time you look in a mirror, you open a window to other worlds. And sometimes something might look back at you. This was What If You Never Existed podcast. Thank you for being with us. And remember, existence is a privilege that shouldn't be taken for granted.